The reality is, ladies and gentlemen, that Lord Byron was right all along. Of the Greeks, he wrote, their life is a struggle against truth. And Byron knew what the truth was. He knew that the Acropolis was a pile of crumbling ruins facing obliteration. When in Athens, Byron and John Galt went back to the rock after 2 months to look again at the sculptures, 2 large pieces of which have fallen since our last visit, he writes. Byron knew that the motives that animated Elgin's mission were pure. I oppose, he writes, and will ever oppose, the robbery of ruins from Athens to instruct the English in sculpture. He knew that Elgin never intended to keep the sculptures when he accused him of a noble native gusto to sell and make, may shame record the day, the state receiver of his pilfered prey. Wait a minute, did he say pilfered? Au contraire, Byron knows that Elgin's actions are authorized. He writes, 2 painters, one of which is Giovan Battista Lusieri, the agent of Elgin, contest the privilege of plundering the Parthenon and triumph in turn according to the tenor of each succeeding firman. Although not physically in our possession, the firman is known to us in every detail, from the draft to the translation. We know who engineered it, who wrote it, who translated it, what it said, who brought it to Athens, who received it, and who acted upon it. It is a document mentioned or acknowledged by virtually every traveler's account, from Galt to Dodwell, from Mary Nisbet to Hobhouse, to Lord Byron himself. Sure, we don't have the original anymore, but this is also true of the entire corpus of ancient literature. For some parts of this corpus, we only have translations. A good chunk of the works by Galen, for example, are preserved only in Arabic, or even Latin translation from Arabic. So, William St. Clair said, there is no reason to doubt the authenticity of the translation. The same conclusion was reached by Adam Eldem, corroborated by internal Ottoman memos that reference and reinforce, as we have heard, the initial authorization. So where does the current narrative come from? Not from Athens, I can tell you. Hobhouse tells us that probably not much criticism would have been addressed to Elgin had he not taken the Caryatid. The Caryatid, not the Parthenon marbles. The same remark comes to us from William Wilkins, who was in Athens in 1802, and from Philip Hunt. The scores of anecdotes about spirits trapped in the marbles and wheeling and crying always refer to the Caryatids, not the Parthenon. And how could the people of Athens have complained in 1801, blissfully indifferent as they were to the cultural magnitude of the events unfolding inside the military base that was the Acropolis? They were not allowed to get in, and even if they had been, they would have had no idea of what they were looking at. On one side, the Orthodox hierarchies tell them to disregard pagan art as the work of the devil, and actually, they give away the stuff quite liberally. On the other, there is no widespread archaeological or historical knowledge about the ancient Greeks in Athens in 1801. Georgos Sakellarios writes in 1796, our people do not have any idea, not even of their ancestors. And Adamantios Korais, another giant of the Greek Enlightenment, writes still in 1810 that the publication of Greek writers is totally new to us. Byron echoes 5 years later. In a catalogue now before me of 55 Greek writers, not above 15 should have touched on anything but religion. In this cultural context, a British lord gets a permit to take the stones away. So what, says your average Nikos? He pays well, and Hobhouse reports, the Athenians suppose that the condition of these enchanted marbles will be bettered by a removal from the country of the tyrant Turks. The truth is that when Elgin took the sculptures away, Athens was not the capital of a nation. The Athens were not the children of Pericles. And the Parthenon was definitely not the soul of Greece. This narrative was not there yet in 1801. Who do we look at then? Byron arrived in Athens in 1809. Already 2 years before then, he had been critical of the antiquarians, Elgin and Aberdeen mainly, who, I quote, waste useless thousands on their Phidian freaks, misshapen monuments and maimed antiques. And even after the Athenian experience, he still maintains that of the ancient Greeks we know more than enough. The Elgin Marbles, as poetical in Piccadilly as they were in the Parthenon, he says. He is much more interested in the people, the life, the costumes. While in Athens, he is often in contact with the French consul, Louis Fauvel. This should not be a surprise. Like much of the Whig liberal circles he is a part of, Byron admires the French, and Napoleon in particular. He styles himself the Grand Napoleon of the realm of rhyme. He and Fauvel certainly seem aligned. Monsieur Fauvel, he says, has frequently declared in my hearing that the Greeks do not deserve to be emancipated. Later on, he doubles down on his own. The Greeks will never be independent, and God forbid they ever should. Is it possible that 20-something young Byron has taken in some of the French poison generously poured by Fauvel? Is it possible that all of these looting, plundering, pilfering is nothing more than French propaganda dressed up in romantic sauce? Or is it just that, as he writes in Don Juan, poets are such liars and take all colors like the hands of dyers? Let me conclude. In the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Michael Constantine's character, Costa, says there are two kinds of people, Greeks and everyone else who wish they were Greek. We are basically accused of being fake wannabe Greeks. What of Shelley then, who wrote in his Hellas, we are all Greeks, our laws, our literature, our religion, our arts have their roots in Greece, even our submarines apparently. Greek revolutionary Prince Ypsilantis certainly believed that, and that's why in his 1821 revolutionary appeal made so much sense to the intellectuals of the West, while it was probably met by blank stares at home. It made sense to Byron, who, when moving to Greece for the final time, has his party clad in flashy uniforms topped with what he termed Homeric helmets, crested with an image of the goddess Athena. 2,000 years before them, Isocrates wrote that Greek is not a title derived from sharing a common blood, but from sharing a common culture. The Elgin Marbles are our share of that culture, our culture. Returning them would be a betrayal not only of ourselves, but also of the Greek Enlightenment and of the spirit of the Greek Revolution. That's why I suggest we follow the advice of another great Greek man, Aristotle, who wrote, between friendship and the truth, you must follow the truth. And the truth is that the marbles were not stolen, they were saved. The truth is that they matter to us just as they did to Elgin. The truth is that you cannot make a moral case in an immoral way, that is, disregarding the truth. So choose the truth tonight and say no to restitution. Thank you.